So I've been quite hesitant on kind of talking about the game as much as I'd like to recently, and I thought, you know what, fuck it, I'll talk about Requiem because I have some thoughts, and it seems I'm not the only one who kind of has these thoughts, not necessarily in full agreement with what everyone is saying, in terms of the negative at least, but nevertheless, I think there's stuff to say, and I'm going to talk about it from more of my own standpoint, and as well as a more kind of logical and positive outlook. This is not going to be a negative video, but it's going to be a bit of a kind of more openly honest of what we've been shown so far. Right, so let's talk about Gamescom. So Gamescom opening night, we saw a new trailer for the game, and there was a gameplay demo for attendees. They could go and play the game, and it was the demo that was shown at the reveal, where it was like behind closed doors. It was the same thing, basically, as that. One thing I'll say straight out the gate is they advertised the game being at Gamescom opening night so much that, you know, I was expecting something, you know, a bit more substantial, but we pretty much got a nothing trailer that was quite short. And then obviously there was the gameplay demo, and I think that was probably why it was advertised a bit more, because obviously it was playable at the event. But the trailer we got, I remember sitting there watching it and going, is that it? Like, it was so brief. Nothing really happened. Positive note, we did see, obviously, Alyssa Ashcroft from Outbreak, finally, in the game. Very cool. But we already knew she was in the game, and it still doesn't really show much of anything else. Now here's the thing, I get it, right? I understand. We're in September, and the game's out till February. So obviously, we're not going to see everything. And I've already said, you know, multiple times over, that what has been shown is the early game. Okay, so not a lot happens in the early game in these games anyway, especially the modern ones. You know, it takes a while to get the ball going. But now, looking at the gameplay demo, I haven't got footage of it here because obviously people have uploaded it on their own channels, and you can go check that out there. I've seen it, I've watched it, and that's where my concern stands currently. So I'll talk about it. The gameplay demo, to me, this is a flat out kind of, this is the statement I'm going to say. It looks more like an Outlast game, or a game more like Outlast than a Resident Evil game, at the minute. Now again, early game, I get it. Let's look back at early Resident Evil 7. Not a lot happens, you do get a gun fairly quickly, but for the most part, you do kind of run around unarmed and try to avoid Jack in the early game, and that's fine. It's very brief though, it's like 20 minutes of the game. 20 minutes, and then you got a gun, and then you're fighting stuff. This gameplay we've seen, if this is a loop in the game, or a big part of the opening of the game where I'm running and hiding and turning on lights and stuff, that's just gonna suck. Now, I'll say it out loud. The pursuer type enemies in any game, but more specifically with Resident Evil, I'm not a fan of, okay? I'll again go back to Outlast, that's kind of the point of the game. You know, you're just a journalist, you know, you don't fight, you have to run and hide. It's the whole shtick of the game, I get it. But with Resident Evil, you know, look at 7 and 8 and the 2 remake is probably the biggest examples of what I'm talking about. It's there in every single one. And here's the thing, like, it's fun the first time. I'll give it credit. It's fun the first time. I remember playing through the 2 remake and 7 and 8, and Mr. X, Jack, and Marguerite, and obviously the Donna's house in Village is good the first time. It's fun the first time. Maybe the second time if playing hard difficulty when they kind of ramp up the speed of them and stuff. But after those initial encounters and, you know, playing through the game, you know, more than maybe 2-3 times, it gets boring, it gets tedious. You know where to go, you know where they're going to be. They're pretty much just in your way at that point. And I've never been a fan of it. That's why I've never really been able to sit and play like an Outlast game where the whole point is to run and hide. The only one I think I've actually kind of played and gone, that was actually good, was Alien Isolation. But the difference is, and this is the big point, you can fight back, you can do things to kind of remove it or make it go away. In these games, no, you gotta run and hide, and it's just, it irks me a bit. That's my big concern with it. I don't want that to be in the game too much. Now I know, again, early part of the game, you know, it's gonna change over time, yeah, cool, okay, but how long am I gonna be running and hiding from this thing? How many times is it gonna turn up? You know, like, that's my issue with this stuff. I don't like how it's been in every single release for the past few years. It's just not something I particularly like, and I get it, people will get a kick out of it, people will find it scary, and that's cool, that's fine, but it's overdone at this point. I think it's just completely overdone, and it needs to kind of be toned down a bit. On a positive note though, obviously what we do know, the game looks great, it plays great, having the option to change perspectives is really cool. We know there's going to be combat with Grace, that's confirmed. We know there's another character that people know of. So I'm fully aware the game is not going to be, you know, start to finish running and hiding. It's not going to be. But the issue I have is that's the promo. You're promoting a Resident Evil game in a way where it looks more like an Outlast game. And I'm not big into that. And I know some people are, and that's fine. I'm not taking away that from anyone. If people think that looks good and enjoy that, great. I hope it's, you know, something that ticks that box for you, but it's gonna get, for me and probably others, very tedious very quickly if it's like this constant, you know, thing that pops up every now and again. But that's pretty much gonna do it. I know it kind of was a bit of a bash on the game, and to be honest, I'm still gonna play it. Like, it's still gonna be a Resident Evil game. Do not ever think I'm not saying that. It will be. Of course it will be. But, you know, I just wanted to express how I feel about the game at the minute, and why I haven't really been covering it right now, because nothing that's been shown has been anything, you know, new from the initial reveal, which I already talked about everything there. And I think it has shown has been of huge interest to me at the moment. But once, you know, more promo material rolls out, once it gets closer to launch, I'm sure they'll add more and more stuff to it, and it will kind of look more appealing. But that's going to do it. Leave your thoughts on Requiem so far down in the comments, and be sure to subscribe to the channel. I am going to be kind of covering any new stuff that comes from the game as quickly as it happens. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.